You're listening to Big World Network.
Subprimeval, Season 2, Episode 12, Epicenter. Written by Robert S.C. Cutler. Read by Ryan Jones. Warning: although there is no material subject matter within that couldn't be found in any general bookstore with no age constraint, this series is rated 18 and contains adult situations and content. This is Katie McGuire reporting for KOKM Channel 11 News. There is hysteria and confusion here in Wichita, Kansas tonight after what was thought to be a massive earthquake. I have taken shelter in the east section of one of Wichita's oldest high schools with several students and their families who were here to attend the Midwest Math and Science competition. Most of the 90-year-old structure has been destroyed and is currently ablaze. Katie, this is Dennis Rush, the KOKM News anchor said. We have received a report from Caltech Seismological Laboratory that there was seismic activity recorded in Kansas just a few minutes ago. They don't know how big yet, but we felt quite a jolt ourselves all the way down here in Oklahoma City. Looking around at the frantic crowd of people, Katie didn't appear to acknowledge Dennis. Pulling back her long brown hair, she took her earpiece out and shook her head, and then pointed to a bank of shattered pane glass windows. After a pair of sobbing girls crossed her path, she responded to Dennis. Sorry, Dennis, we lost you for a moment. I'm looking across the street at collapsed homes and businesses, and can tell you that I'm almost positive it was an earthquake. You said there was a fire, Katie. Was this from a gas main rupture? Asked Dennis. Katie put a finger up to the earpiece and nodded slowly. Not initially. Eyewitnesses told me that a tanker truck hauling what appeared to be flammable liquid of some kind was catapulted off of the raised section of the freeway and rolled into the side of the building where it exploded into an enormous fireball. Thankfully, we were nowhere near the section of the school where impact occurred. Katie dropped the microphone when several people ran into her as they exited the building. Dennis couldn't hide the look of horror on his face when screams of terror and panic rang out through his earpiece, the studio, and televisions across Oklahoma. The cameraman panned to the right, showing flames and smoke billowing out from a hallway and stairwell. Moments later, the camera violently shook, fell to the ground, and stopped transmitting. Are you still with us, Katie? Asked Dennis. Can you hear me, Katie? He paused for a moment, waiting for an answer, and then turned to his co-anchor, Laura. We seem to have lost Katie, folks, Laura said, with a concerned look on her well-tanned face. We're being told our technical staff is working on the problem and hope to have her back soon, with more on-the-scene coverage. Now, with an exclusive aerial view of the damage, here is Ray in the Channel 11 newscopter. Thank you, Laura. This is Ray Newman with footage of the unfolding disaster in Wichita that you'll only see here on Channel 11 News, the station that is the heart of Oklahoma. The airspace above and around the metropolitan area was closed just moments before we entered in order to keep the skies clear for emergency aircraft. As you can see, the entire downtown area of Wichita has been leveled. There is a large chasm stretching south of Highway 54 and north toward the town of Park City. Can you tell us the condition of the high school where Katie and her crew are on assignment? Asked Laura. We are headed that way now, and by the looks of things up here, the school is a total loss. Ray Newman turned toward the pilot, nodded, and then shook his head before he gave them a thumbs up. The pilot has just informed me that we are being ordered to land or leave the airspace immediately, so we're going to try and set down somewhere safe and see if we can't locate the team. Thank you, Ray, and stay safe, Laura said, as the camera panned back over to Dennis. When News Team 11 returns, we'll have more on the developing disaster in Wichita, Dennis reported. But first, the exclusive story you've all been waiting for. Has the governor of Oklahoma been caught with yet another prostitute? Agent Davis held Freakshow by the wrists and hands, attempting to pull his comrade out from the giant gorge that had opened up during the explosions. Beneath Freakshow's dangling feet, the underground river, now free of its natural obstructions, was violently flowing south. The sky behind Davis was glowing red from the countless fires that had been ignited by the blast, making Freakshow feel as though he had been thrown into the depths of hell. For a brief moment, he thought of letting go, believing death was the only way to erase all of the guilt he was feeling. "Come on, Shore," Davis grunted as he pulled Freakshow free. "Let's get away from the edge before more of it collapses." Freakshow spun around in circles, scanning the area. "You got somewhere to be?" asked Davis. "Yeah, far away from here," Freakshow answered. "Do you see any vehicles in the area?" "No. If there were any, they're probably down in the river. Why would we need a car when we can make the rendezvous site in no time flat?" "Because we're not fast enough to outrun those things," Freakshow said, pointing to the gathering group of creatures just below their position. "Holy crap, do they look hungry," Davis said. "We need to get out of the open before those things find out we're nearby." "And how are we going to do that? We're in Kansas. The entire state is out in the open," Davis laughed. Freakshow pointed in the direction where downtown Wichita once stood. "How long would it take us to run about a mile and a half?" "Are you shitting me? You want to go straight into the middle of all that destruction? What about the rendezvous point? We still need to contact Kraft." "Do you really think Kraft is waiting for us?" asked Freakshow. "We're not supposed to be alive. It wasn't in the plan." "The only plan I knew about was to rig the charges, get out of Dodge, and blow the place," Davis said. "How are we supposed to blow the charges when neither of us or Agent Venice had the remote?" "But I have it right here," Davis claimed, while removing a sleek black device that resembled a cell phone from his pocket. "Kraft said just key in the code and hit send." Is it broken?" he said while repeatedly pushing buttons on the device. "I'm telling you, it never worked. Stewart was on a suicide mission and had planned all along to take us with him. Kraft must have been in on it too and gave Stewart the only operational detonator." Davis looked down at the ground and shook his head. "But he let us go." "Must have had a change of heart, and if Kraft believes that we're dead, then maybe it would be safer for us if he just kept on believing it." Davis pounded his right fist into his left palm. "Kraft's gonna wish we were dead when I catch up to him." Freakshow looked down toward the river and the ever-increasing pack of creatures. "If we don't leave right now, we will be dead." "Cassie, where are you?" a young waitress cried out. She was crawling on her hands and knees through a sea of broken dishes, glass, food, and bodies. "Please answer me." Cassie was lying on the floor, pinned beneath a large man. Trying to recover from having the wind knocked out of her, she attempted to yell for help, but it only came out in a whisper. An explosion from across the street rocked the restaurant, knocking pieces of false ceiling to the ground. Panicked, the young waitress got up to run and tripped over Cassie, falling headfirst into an overflowing bus cart. With all of her strength, Cassie yelled out her friend's name. "Trina, I'm over here! Get this guy off of me!" Trina crawled over and started pulling on Casey's arm. "Come on, we've got to get out of here!" "He's on my legs, you've got to roll him off!" Trina shook the man's shoulder. "Mister, you need to get off of my friend, you're hurting her!" "I think he's dead. Just take his arm and turn him over." "He can't be dead, he's just unconscious," Trina said, as she lifted up the man's head, revealing his open, turned-up eyes. Trina scooted as far away as she could and screamed. Cassie tried to calm her down, but Trina's scream turned into sobs and then cries of hysteria. Another explosion shook the building hard enough to knock loose the remaining shards of glass from the storefront windows. Trina took in a deep breath and held it. "You need to breathe, Trina," Cassie said. "Just relax and let it go. Come on, sweetheart, you're turning blue. I don't want to die like this, and neither do you." Trina exhaled in stuttering breaths. Her mascara-lined green eyes filled with tears and overflowed onto her washed-out cheeks. She looked over at her friend and then at the dead man laying on top of her and clenched her fists tight. "Stay with me, Trina. I can't do this without you." "I don't think I can touch him," her voice quivered. Cassie suddenly lost her cool. "I don't want to touch him either, and he's all over me." Trina jumped and curled up into the fetal position. "Don't yell at me," she sobbed. I'm sorry. Please don't get upset. I didn't mean to yell at you." The earth beneath the restaurant rolled back and forth, causing something large to fall over in the kitchen. Trina jumped again and stood up. Grabbing onto the lunch counter, she started to move Cassie's way. "I'm so dizzy," Trina said. Cassie motioned with her hand for Trina to stay put. "Just stay still for a second. I think we're having another earthquake." Trina closed her eyes and took long, deep breaths. Okay, the ground stopped moving. I'm coming over to you. I'm going to try, she said, but I'm not going to look at him. I don't think I can take seeing his eyes again. Do whatever you need to. Just get him off my legs. When Trina reached Cassie, she closed her eyes tight and firmly grabbed hold of the man's shoulder, rolling him off of her friend. His limp, hair-covered arm flopped over his chest and smacked hard onto the wet tile floor, where a puddle of water had formed. A loud, raspy hiss made both girls cringe as the last of the dead man's air escaped his lungs. "Help me up!" Cassie cried. Trina helped Cassie to her feet, and the two women embraced, shaking and sobbing. The restaurant creaked and moaned as the earth moved again. Outside in the distance, sirens from emergency vehicles echoed throughout the outskirts of the city, but nowhere near the center where Cassie and Trina were. Freakshow and Davis collapsed to the ground, having just sprinted nearly 2 miles. The rancid taste of smoke coated their taste buds. Acrid chemicals filled up their lungs. Freakshow got up on his hands and knees and dry-heaved in the middle of the street. Looking back from where they had come from, he had made an unpleasant discovery. A pack of the creatures was a mere 3 blocks away and closing fast. "Time to go, Davis," Freakshow yelled. "I can't breathe, man. Give me a second, for God's sake." "We don't have a second. Look!" Davis's eyes became big and round. He scrambled to his feet, and the two men took off running. "Which way do we go?" "Just follow me. We're going to head east down the next street," Freakshow said. Down East Douglas Avenue, dodging the rubble and debris, Freakshow and Davis raced for their lives. Behind them, the first wave of carnivorous creatures followed, their moist snouts picking up bits and pieces of scent through the smoke. Nocturnal eyes tracked the men's every movement through the bright glow of the numerous fires. One by one, the creatures split off into the falling buildings and alleyways, driven by the scent of death and the promise of an easy meal. Freakshow found what he was looking for just a couple of blocks ahead. The small restaurant was badly damaged, but at least it was still standing. Keying his radio, he called for a taxi. "Agent Shore, you ready for pickup?" asked Captain Jones. 10 minutes in the parking lot?" "Is it fairly debris-free?" asked Captain Jones. "Should be clear. 1-story structures on each side." "Roger that. See you in 10. "Who the hell was that?" asked Davis. "The cavalry," Freakshow smiled. "You had a radio all this time and you didn't use it?" "We weren't at the rendezvous site yet." "So we're really out of here in 10? asked Davis. "After we pick up 2 more passengers, and if we're able to fend off those demons bearing down on us. How many clips do you still have?" "All 6. And you?" Freakshow checked his belt and pockets. "Just 2, and what's left in my Ruger." "We've got this, buddy," Davis reassured Freakshow. When they reached the restaurant, Davis led the way through the broken-out windows, his M4 chest level and ready to fire. "Don't shoot anyone, dude. My sister's in here somewhere," Freakshow said. "Sister? Is she cute?" "And pregnant," Freakshow dryly answered. "Does she have a friend?" Davis asked with a cheesy grin. "Is that you, Devin?" Cassie called out from behind the lunch counter. Both girls slowly showed themselves and broke down into tears upon seeing their rescuers. Davis locked gazes with Trina and couldn't take his eyes off of her. "Holy crap, she does have a friend," he whispered to himself. Freakshow looked around the trashed restaurant, his eyes darting from body to body. "Where's your fiancé?" "He didn't believe me," Cassie cried. "He said he couldn't miss work and that you should have your head examined." "I don't like him already," Freakshow grunted. "Are there any more survivors in the restaurant?" "No, we checked," Trina said. "I can't believe they're all gone." "Okay, here's the plan. The helicopter will be setting down in the next-door parking lot in just about 1 minute. You girls stay ahead of us while we blast away at those nasty bastards." Cassie's voice quivered. "How many?" "More than you can count, sis. Focus on getting to the helicopter and don't look back. You won't like what you'll see." The small building started to rumble, but this time it was from the Black Hawk and not from an earthquake. Freakshow and Davis took a hold of each girl's arm and quickly rushed them out of the restaurant and smack in the middle of the group of creatures that had tracked them down. Without hesitation, Davis opened fire, clearing a path for the others. Seeing that his comrade was holding his own, Freakshow pushed the girls toward the helicopter. Mere feet from safety, a large creature appeared out of nowhere and charged. Freakshow fumbled with a Ruger and managed to squeeze off one shot before the monster's head exploded, and its lifeless body fell to the ground. Major Wallace appeared in the doorway of the Blackhawk, holding an M4 and grinning. "Let's go, folks. We're running out of time. That means you too, Davis." Freakshow and the girl scrambled into the helicopter, followed closely by Davis. Captain Jones welcomed them aboard and took off. As they climbed into the night sky, Freakshow stared out the window at the destruction below. He scooted close to Cassie and gave her a hug. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I swear I'll never let you down again." Cassie wiped the tears from her eyes and took a deep, quivering breath. "Where are we going?" Freakshow looked back out the window at the great chasm that now divided the fallen city and the thousands of hunger-ravaged creatures pouring out of its bowels. Starting to choke up himself, he gave the only answer he could accept. "Somewhere safe."
Music by Kevin MacLeod.
You're listening to Big World Network.